In the morning of November the 8th, 2012, not even a month after the murder of Modell, another STL member would be found in critical condition in the Wrightwood neighborhood in the far southwest side of Chicago. This time, it was a 17-year-old Rodney Stewart, better known in the streets as Boss Trell from STL, who had been shot once in the back of the head and was found laying dead in a gangway with a Glock handgun tucked underneath his body. Only a few hours before being found, Boss Trell had made a tweet stating that he was going back to sleep. So if he was going back to bed, how did he end up shot outside next to houses that he seemingly had no connection to? This shooting was actually heard by several residents in the area, but only a few had seen anything. But one of these witnesses had spotted a thin-built man with an average height wearing a white sweater running away from the scene. Another witness had seen a black van driving away from the scene, as well as another man wearing a hoodie, carrying a backpack, and running while yelling for help. While the police were trying to piece together what had happened from these tiny tidbits of information, Boss Trell had been rushed to hospital, where he would continue to fight for his life. Later that morning, Boss Trell's friend began reacting to the news of him being in hospital, and soon FBG Cash would post a picture on Twitter of himself holding Boss Trell's hand. And he would also post several tweets that sounded like threats and antagonism towards the people that he believed had shot Boss Trell, where he said that he was about to go nuts and turn the streets into a gun range. Only a few minutes later, T-Roy and King Von would begin a tweet storm of their own, where they both heartlessly mocked Boss Trell, as well as seemingly implying that they had something to do with his shooting, with T-Roy tweeting "man down," Von tweeting "LOL, the struggle." T-Roy would even tweet "F him, die slow," and going on to reference the infamous true crime reality show First 48, suggesting that he had just First 48'd his victim. King Von would then follow up with another heartless tweet saying that his ops aren't dying on time, a reference to Boss Trell's status in hospital. And then T-Roy himself would reference the situation mockingly, tweeting "No Trell, stay alive." Unfortunately, later that night, Boss Trell would pass away from his injuries. But still, even the next day, King Von would continue to taunt STL, claiming that STL really stood for steady taking losses, as well as referencing Boss Trell directly, tweeting he ain't a boss to him. Tragically, it would later be reported that Boss Trell seemingly knew that he was in danger in Chicago, and that he'd even had plans to move to Iowa, where he had a lead on a new job. In fact, the very night he shot, he had already had a bus ticket bought to get out of town. His fears were very much warranted, because Boss Trell himself was rumored to be a known shooter, with many believing that he had killed for his gang too, particularly Sherroyd from O-Block. That same reporting would then make claims that many around Trell, including his girlfriend, as well as the detectives investigating the death, actually knew who'd done it, but without credible witnesses, including Trell's girlfriend, who said that she didn't feel comfortable talking about people she thought were involved, they ultimately couldn't bring any charges. But given that Von and T-Roy were heavily implying their involvement in the murder on social media, it would be no surprise that the internet would also begin to think they must have had something to do with the murder. Images would even circulate of a photo that T-Roy shared, showing his Timberland boots covered in blood, with the implication that the blood may well have belonged to Boss Trell. These rumors were later further fueled by people close to O-Block and STL, who would seemingly admit that Von and T-Roy were those responsible.
Von allegedly killed Trell, him and T-Roy. Only the streets know, and only the people who did it know. So that's why I'm saying allegedly.
He got what he caught that quick. He caught, nigga, he was, listen to his raps, like he was really like telling y'all what he was doing, and like how he go, like he'd change his shoes, he catching before he even hit school, like he caught Trell. Some goofy ass was on my podcast telling me he ain't, boy, on God, on OD Soul, Boss Trell is folks' work. Like, stop that. Like, That was folks' work. He did that.
People would point out that Von and T-Roy had seemingly been driving around Chicago the night leading up to the morning that Trell was found. However, there were also other suspects from O-Block, particularly next year in 2013, after a well-respected O-Block member called J Money, real name Jerome Wood, was ultimately killed. Immediately following that murder, friends of Boss Trell would tweet saying RIP to Boss Trell, insinuating that it may have been J Money who had been the trigger man, with them celebrating his passing. Then, the following year, in 2014, STL member FBG Young would post a tweet that seemingly implied that Boss Trell had died due to some kind of betrayal taking place. Then, in 2015, another good friend of Boss Trell, rapper FBG Duck, who was also Boss Trell's cousin, would rap in his song My Homies that it was actually a girl who had betrayed Trell and caused his death. This would seemingly match with the earlier reporting of Boss Trell's aunt blaming his girlfriend for not cooperating with the police. The rumor regarding a girl setting Boss Trell up would eventually develop into a completely new direction. According to this rumor, Trell used to leave his guns at a girl's house, but that girl had a brother who ended up taking the gun. This brother was part of a gang called Quiet Money, who apparently controlled the area around where Boss Trell was found shot. On the morning of his death, he had supposedly gone to get a gun back from the brother, but this would ultimately wind up with him getting killed, with this story being substantiated by people who were close to the situation, such as EBT-BG.
Trell, BT, the ops didn't do that. They didn't do that. STL didn't get no get back for BT. But anyway, he got wrapped up in some trying to go get his pipe back that his brother then took from him. Like I say, Everybody took guns from STL.
This rumour hasn't been proven to be true either, and the murder of Boss Trell is still an open case. It's important to mention that there's never been any definitive proof exactly who was the girl that supposedly set Boss Trell up, and what exactly was her role in this supposed setup. Many have naturally accused Boss Trell's supposed girlfriend, but there have been multiple women in his life, which was something his supposed girlfriend had also implied. So we may never know who did it, but regardless of exactly who it was, if the tweets were anything to go by, to Von and T. Roy, the murder and death of their rivals was just an everyday activity, and with that in mind, it would only be a matter of time before they indeed killed again.